You're listening to Punisher Waterfowls, the Union 0430 podcast. Brought to you by Real Geese Decoys, the most technologically advanced silhouette decoy on the market. First Light, the best hunting gear on the planet. Go farther, stay longer. And Ducklander Calls, tradition, education, and quality. Built to hunt.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Union 0430. This is episode 191. And we've got Ryan Burnett from Pattern Pros coming with us tonight. So we've got a lot to unpack with him because it's been quite a while since Ryan's been on. But as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, we've just got Craig here tonight. Philly is up at his RV hanging out with whoever he hangs out with up there. I don't get it, but that's Philly's gig and he loves it. Mark's probably doing some search and rescue shit, so that's way more important than hanging out with us. So you got Craig, myself, and Ryan. Ryan, where are you coming to us from? You still in North Carolina, Ryan?
South Carolina.
South Carolina, right? South Carolina. So Ryan's coming to us from South Carolina. Like I said, he's with Pattern Pros, but we'll get into that. I have to thank our sponsors, Real Geese, First Light, and Ducklander Calls, because without them, this show wouldn't be possible. And of course, we have to mention the voice of the Union 0430, Captain Jeff Coates, Pit Boss Waterfowl. Please check out all of their socials. They are amazing brands, amazing people. And they've been behind us for a long time. So, boys, I've got to start this episode before we get going too far. And this is mostly for the listeners. I don't know how I'm going to be performing tonight because I may have taken some medication and I'm drinking rum. I've got in-laws in the house. My daughter just graduated high school yesterday. It's been a crazy fucking week. I haven't done a show. This is the first show in 2 weeks. And I don't know how I'm going to perform tonight. So this is just, we're just rolling the dice here tonight. So
that's pretty much what I tell my wife. It's been a couple weeks. I don't know how I'm going to perform.
You got one of those too, eh? It was awesome. I'm not going to say his name because I'm not sure how he would like that, but it was a friend, a past guest. It was his birthday yesterday, and I fired him off a message, and I was like, "Hey, buddy, happy birthday! I hope you get a little bit of huck to tonight." That girl, dude. Ryan, I'm not trying to take any time away from you, dude, but that girl has united a group of people in North America like you would not believe. Like if there is a bunch of women right now that is still scratching their head trying to figure out how do I please a man, that girl just answered it for everybody.
I told my wife, I was like, we are unbelievably simple creatures. If you tell us like at the end of this rainbow, like you have to crawl through, this however far of glass or whatever it would be, and you're like, you'll get lucky at the end. It's like, in our minds, you're like, that seems like a fair trade.
But that's a fair trade. Absolutely. Totally worth it. I can tell you, my wife fucking tricked me a long time ago into, well, you know what? If you did more stuff around the house, I'm like, fuck, deal. I'll start fucking doing laundry and cleaning. That didn't last.
Called her bluff?
I called her bluff, totally. It worked out for a little bit, but then she reneged on it. Fucking bullshit. But yeah, man, that girl. So I gotta go on this. I gotta go on a little bit of a rant here about this girl because, and I didn't plan this, but So that girl on her off time, she was on her fucking time off, right? She was obviously at a bar or gone to a party or a dance club or whatever. She gets interviewed. So she's on her own time, man. So this girl is I think she's a preschool teacher or like a kindergarten teacher or something. Yeah. So she got fucking fired, dude.
No way.
Yeah,
what?
the fucking school board fired her. So a gentleman, this dude, like fuck, I don't know, like our age, maybe a little bit older. Anyways, he tracked her down and found out where she lived. And I think he's sort of kind of in the same area. I think it's down in Tennessee. I could be wrong. Someone could correct me, but I think she's down in Tennessee. Anyways, he sort of fucking tracked her down and said, "Hey, listen, you lost your fucking job. Let's make some money off of this." So he started fucking doing some merch and turning all the I think obviously he's going to keep a little bit of money for himself, right? Because obviously. So he keeps a little bit of money for himself, I think. And then the rest of the money is going into an account for her to take the fucking school board to court because they fucking fired her, dude. And I'm just like, but what's your grounds for firing this girl? Like, what did she do that was wrong? Yeah. I don't understand. I bet you if a fucking blue-haired fat Antifa person was on TV, I bet you they wouldn't get fucking fired. Anyways, this is a slippery slope. But I got my point out. Anybody, if there's any bleeding liberals that listen to us, which I doubt that there are, they're probably coming on glued right now listening to me. So, but whatever.
I mean, even liberals have to like BJ's, right? Is that? I mean, you would think.
You would think they're they're liberals. They're not inhuman.
I don't know. That's a hard call, though.
It's a hard call. Oh fuck, that's awesome, Ryan, buddy. Listen, you guys have been fucking busy. You have been everywhere, dude. Like you guys are you're doing the whole podcast circuit. Like there's podcasts I didn't even know existed, and that's not a slag against the podcast. It's just I just didn't know about them, and then I'm seeing you guys were guests on the show, and I'm like, holy fuck, how many people are podcasting out there? Because you guys are doing a lot. You had an article, was it in Ducks Unlimited's magazine?
The one in Ducks was, I think it was September.
Yeah.
And that was like 7 new pieces of gear to look out for the year.
That's right.
Our targets were number 1, and then our boxes were number 2.
Wow.
And then Delta Waterfowl actually wrote an article on us, and that had been on their website. And that's actually in the current issue of Delta Waterfowl. That's actually in there in the shotgunning section.
Yep.
And then NWTF wrote an article on us. That's on their website. That'll be, I believe, in their magazine in January, February timeframe.
Wow. You guys are all over the place, man. Like I said, I'm seeing you're popping up here, you're popping up there. And then, and we got to get to this part because Craig's gonna chime in on this because it's actually embarrassing. But you're popping up everywhere, and then before we hit, the record button, you were talking about how you and the boys had went down. You didn't have a booth set up in the NWTF, but you went down to check that out in Nashville, and you went down to check out the show, but you ended up working the entire event just trying to make connections, right?
Oh, dude, it was. I was absolutely smoked. So we got down there kind of late Friday night, and I guess I thought the show went until Sunday. We get there and say, hey, it's done Saturday. So I'm like, well, I thought I had roughly a day and a half to get talking to all these people, and I'm like, well, shit. So I'd already made a list of people I needed to talk to, and most of them were ammo companies,
of course.
And I essentially just beelined it to I talked with pretty much every major ammo manufacturer in the business. I had at least a 10, 15-minute conversation with. And up until that point, like, we've had conversations with several ammo companies, and I know of other people who have spoken to them on our behalf, but it was like, how are they still going to react
Right.
to us having their shells with everybody else's shells in the same box? And it was one after another. Like, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
it was seriously all the same things and the same reactions, and it was like, absolutely, like, we would absolutely love to work with you guys. And it was, dude, it was so cool. Like, I got like a stack of business cards, and when I got back to the hotel that night, mine and Christian's wives they were waiting for us, and they're like, "Come on, we got to go." And I'm like, I took my boots off, I sat down, cracked a beer. I'm like, you got, like, you're gonna have to give me a little bit.
Just let me.
But it was like,
here.
yeah, it was. I was kind of like, dude, like, boys, I think we're really, like, we're good. Like, that all of these ammo companies are fully on board. And now we have actual working relationships with all of those companies.
Yep.
So obviously that helps our costs out a lot, which allows us to kind of keep costs lower.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And that's our goal. But dude, it was definitely a little daunting. It was like, all right, we're getting ready for the Delta show, so there's just so much more that we need. Like, we're not fully furnishing the freaking place, but in terms of banners and then just the amount of product that we needed, it was like, oh shit, like, all right, we got to buckle down. So it's been an absolute ton of work leaving there. Like, I mean, like, there hasn't been a single day where we haven't had something that is us preparing for Delta. It's been a lot more work than I ever anticipated. And like you said, we've talked to a lot of people, so a lot of it's been podcasts. And there's so many more podcasts out there than I ever imagined. Like, I'll try and find a podcast, and I'm like, well, I've looked for them before, and these have never popped up. And then you're like, oh, they've got several thousand followers on Facebook or whatever. And I'm like, all right, like,
yeah,
it's not like a Joe Rogan sized podcast, obviously, but it's like there's plenty of people out there listening to all these podcasts. So I'm like, I'm going to talk to every single person I can, and even only one person buys it, for me, it's like, it's an absolute success. And the more people we get to talk to, it's a snowball effect. So, and we're really starting to see that. So that's been pretty cool. So the work is definitely starting to pay off, and we got 1 month till Delta, and that's like our culminating event, really.
That's going to be a big one for you, man. Like, it is, because I don't know about any of the other shows that you've attended, or when you're chatting with people. And I know, like, when you're chatting with people, you're talking to your people, but that's usually like a one-on-one, or maybe a half a dozen people. But the Delta show, the Duck Expo, like, that's all your people. That's going to be, that's 40,000 people that want your product, because ultimately that's who you're talking to. Yeah, there's going to be some people that's like, no, I don't need to do that, because I know what I shoot, and I like what I shoot, and there's nothing you or I or Craig or anybody is going to say to change their mind. But edit at 30,000 people, there's going to be a hockey sock full of them that want to know what works best out of their shotgun. And the only way to listen, there's a million ways to skin a cat, but I would think the fastest, easiest, and most cost effective would be you guys.
Yeah, it's I was thinking about it yesterday. I was like, all right, if somehow we got 1% of people to buy, I'm like, that's a that's a win, just because obviously the volume.
Yeah.
So we've done a couple like little shows, and like we've sold some stuff, but it's still, I feel like when people go to the little shows, it's kind of like just something to do. I feel like, but when they go to like a Delta, they're like, I'm going to go freaking buy something.
Right.
And so it's going to be crazy is people are still going to show up and still buy a case of shells that they had never shot before, which is just like, now knowing the things that I know is crazy. So I've tried to talk to people like on Facebook, or whatever, reach out to people in Louisiana. I'm like, hey, if you live close by and you're coming for a 2-day, at least 2 of the 3 days, come buy our stuff, go shoot it, and then come back. And I guarantee you that ammo company is going to be at. So then you go buy it, and you're like, I'm set. You go buy a case, and now you're like, it's justified.
Absolutely.
But it is super exciting to have your perfect target audience all in one spot, eager to freaking burn some money.
Absolutely.
And I said to a couple people now, but I like at the end of BTF show, I felt like I almost feel like a little cocky saying it, but I told the boys, I was like, guys, we honestly, I think we have absolutely the coolest product here out of all of this. And that's like no disrespect to any of the other stuff, but I was like, there's a bunch of different calls. There's a bunch of different shells and choke tubes. And it's like, obviously those are, you need all of those things. But I was like, there's only one of us.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think this is so freaking cool. That when we do this thing and like things blow up, it's going to be huge. So like, Damien, I know like the military taught you to kind of be a little bit of a realist or pessimist.
Yeah.
And I have been unbelievably optimistic about the show, which kind of
you've been humble. You've been humble, right? Ultimately. And listen, before we get too far into this, and this is where I'm going to say this is embarrassing, and I'm going to hand it over to Craig because it's fucking embarrassing that this is going to be the question that Craig's going to ask you right now, because Craig brought it up to us that we did not discuss it on the very first time that you were here.
And I could be wrong, but I just remember listening. I was driving, listening to the first episode you were on, and it's like, I understood what the product was, but I'm like, the whole time I was listening to it, I'm like, they haven't explained what the product is.
And
so
no,
I don't think so.
And Craig was saying, he said it seemed like we had talked about it before we hit the record button, and then we just carried on our conversation, but we never actually talked about what the Pattern Pros box was. So Craig mentioned that. I said, well, I was like, we know what you're going to talk about, Craig.
So that was my suggestion. Is let's step it back a bit and tell everybody, like, what is it that they can go onto your website and look at, or if they're coming to the show, what is the product that you're talking about?
Well, Craig, I'm glad you asked that question.
Well, let me go into my elevator speech here.
So I guess I'm sure we would probably hit it on the first time, but to start at the beginning, Brody had bought a shotgun a couple years ago with a couple different boxes of shells, and I was like, dude, like these both suck. I'm not taking either one of these hunting. And it was like, all right, well, let's figure out what we can do. And it came to, let's put more than one type of shell in a single box. And so what we finished on for Waterfowl was 8 different types of shell with 3 of each shell in one box. So you get 24 shells in a box. So essentially a regular size box of shells. And so out of those 8, maybe there could be like 2 Winchester or 2 Boss or whatever it's going to be. Excuse me. But you have the ability to try so many more shells without spending an absolute crap ton of money. And at the end of the day, you've actually figured out what is actually going to pattern best out of your gun. So it's just crazy. Like I was saying, guys will go buy a bunch of shells and have never tried it.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have the ability to try 8 out at one time. And our boxes are $59.99. You can't go buy almost 2 boxes of shells unless you're the cheapest stuff out there for less than $60, especially now if you get into bismuth. So
especially here.
Sorry. Where it seems like we're not far behind you, unfortunately. But so one of the things that we actually just came out with that we're super excited about is our premium box. So that is same thing, 8 different types of shell, 3 of each, but these are going to be all bismuth loads. So with the exception of there's the timber, which is the bismuth steel. And then you've got a couple of the heavies in there that there's some tungsten involved, but that's got all of your big brands: Winchester Federal, Boss War Chief. So you've got Kent. So there's all of the big names that all have their own bismuth now, and a lot of that stuff is pretty freaking expensive. Like a box of most bismuth loads is like $60.
So that's $60 American. So I'm like, I have not bought a box of bismuth. And Philly is the bismuth guy with us, and he would know. But Craig, do you have any idea what a box of bismuth costs?
No idea. I don't even bother with it.
So, and I'm not trying to jump on you here, Ryan, but one thing, and I'm gonna say this because you didn't say it per se, and I'm a type of guy because I'm an army guy and I like shit dumbed down for me. So the beauty about this product is that if you want to go pattern your gun like most people do, and they want to pattern their gun and they want to know what shell works best out of their choke tube, out of their system, well, they've got to go buy a 25 shell box, because you can't walk into a store and buy just 3 shells. So the beauty with this is that you're getting 3 shells of the big names, and it's all coming in one, and you go do your pattern and you got 3 shells, and you're not left with a pile of ammo left over, because I'm looking over across at my ammo right now. I've got so many different boxes with like 2 or 3 shells taken out of it, and I'm like, I'm not going to shoot this. Like this stuff is no good. I'll shoot it at some clay pigeons or something like that, but I'm never going to take that out on a hunt with me. And this product that Ryan and the boys have, and let me add this, that it's a veteran-owned company too, and that cannot be stated enough. So it's a veteran-owned company. You, and when I say you, I mean the consumer. The consumer is going to save so much money by going this route that, I just think, and I understand I'm all over the place here. I understand, Ryan, when you say like you got to be humble, and you're trying to be humble, and you don't want to sound cocky and stuff like that. But listen, nobody else is doing it. And it is a fabulous, fabulous product for people to get their hands on, and ultimately more birds, because that's the goal, right? The goal is dispatching birds the most humanely way as possible. No cripples. So how do you do that? By patterning your gun and making sure that you're putting the most lethal system together when it comes to hunting.
Well, and it's not even just making the patterning more economical too, right? It's like if you find that shell that you're shooting a lot less of because you're being more effective with it, it's like it's going to save you in the long run that way too, right?
100%.
So yeah, that's it. You hit on like several things right there where it's a little bit of money up front. So it's, let's say you buy a regular box, $59.99. And then our targets, we have full-size patterning target. So we changed the size a little bit, just making it easier to pack and ship. So they're 36-inch by 36-inch targets. So you actually get to see your full pattern. So roughly $85 right there, but it's a one-time thing. So you've done it one time. Now you know your best shell out of those. But then there's going to be a couple others that pattern pretty solid. You're like, hey, those are my second, my third best.
Yeah.
So now I've got my plan. Now I go buy my shell. I'm good to go. So that was a little bit of money. But Craig, like you were just saying, now you're shooting less. So instead of shooting that bird, 2 or 3 times, which we've all done, and that's never going to go away.
No.
But it's going to lessen that amount. So it's going to make you're now shooting and killing that thing quicker. So that's saving you money right off the rip. Hey, I shot it one time, he's dead. Now you're not chasing cripples, which chasing anything in waders sucks. Like I think probably 4 or 5 years ago, I had it where for whatever reason I had a lot of crippled birds. Now I wasn't losing them, but it was just like I refused to shoot them again. I was like, I'll just go out. They're out in the decoys, and I got in phenomenal shape that year. The next year, I said, "The hell with that." I'm shooting.
It was like boot camp all over again. You just needed a drill sergeant fucking losing his mind, yelling and screaming at you. So Ryan will jump back on. No big deal.
He should change his name this time.
Yeah, he changed his name to Mandy. We're just gonna call him Mandy.
We're back.
Yeah, we're back, buddy. We're just gonna call him Mandy from now on. You just when you're out running around trying to chase down cripples, you just need a fucking drill sergeant just screaming at you again.
Yeah, well, no, because it's me, Brody, and Christian back there laughing their asses off. And then obviously when it's their turn, then you're like, "Oh, that sucks."
Yeah.
So you're shooting less. You're not chasing cripples. Now, something I've thought about more recently is guys with dogs. Now it's going to be easier on your dog because they're not chasing freaking crippled birds. And
I've been shooting at cripples too, right? It's like if you're crippling birds, it's going to happen regardless of what shell you're shooting.
Yeah.
But then if you're trying to finish off that cripple with the load that's not effective out of your gun, then it's like, chasing cripples is just going to be that much better too. Because if you are having to shoot them and you've found that load that's good, then in theory you're going to have to shoot at those cripples a lot less too.
Again and again and again. And so I've thought about it in extreme, up there in Canada, you guys get those real cold temperatures. I would guarantee you that hunting dogs die every year because they're getting super cold temperatures and they're spending so much energy trying to get a crippled bird. And I've seen videos of dogs who are chasing birds on the ice and then they go through the ice.
Yeah.
And unfortunately you can't do anything about it. I feel like most of the time. I've never been in that situation, but I'm like, you know what? I guarantee you that happens. Even maybe just a couple times throughout the entire Northern America.
If it only happens once, buddy, it's too much, right?
Exactly. So that's taking it maybe to the extreme, but at the same time, there's in my mind there's validity to it.
No, you're absolutely right. And when you say things like, well, maybe that's extreme. Maybe that's extreme to say that. Well, your dog is out pushing through and the whole bit. Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe in your situation you've never ever experienced it. But I guarantee you, there's somebody that's listening to this episode or past episodes that you've done or that you've met at a show or come across your socials that has been a very, very valid reason into looking more into what you guys are doing. Because, listen, if it's a human being, your dog, whatever, nobody wants to be wasting shell. I don't give a fuck who you are. Nobody wants to be pounding shells at it or gun to try and finish off birds. And it got nothing to do with money. It got nothing to do with nothing other than, listen, I want to pull the trigger once and I want to fold a bird.
Yeah, nobody's happy with, going through 10 shells before the duck's dead.
Absolutely not. And there's times when, hey, listen, we're all not Mr. Knapp, right? We're all not going to be dropping fucking triples every time we pull up. And there's times you're going to wing a bird, and there's times you're not going to fold them perfectly. But you've got, as a hunter, and this is the thing, I think as a hunter, it is our responsibility to do whatever we can to make sure that we dispatch that bird as humanely as possible. I do believe that that is our responsibility. That is the thing that we have to bring to the table.
Yep. No, absolutely. It's like everybody who big game hunts, they don't want to be tracking deer, elk, moose, whatever it is. Like, they want a one shot, one kill.
Absolutely.
Drop it where it's at. So we should have the exact same ethics.
100%.
When it comes to that.
Well, Ryan, look at the evolution of the ammunition industry today, right? So, and I'm not slagging any brand, and I'm not throwing any shade on anybody. But buddy, I'm 47 years old, and when I started hunting 30 plus years ago, I didn't have a whole lot of options when it came to shot shells. And now the science that's put into shot shells, and you look at some of these brands that are coming up, and I'm not going to name names, but you look at some of these brands and the science and the what do they call it? The metallurgy is that
yes.
the fucking term? Yeah,
something like that.
Something like that, like the science that's going in behind. And I know there was always science, but now you got dudes in their garage that are starting fucking ammunition companies because they are smart enough to understand the ballistics and fucking the ratio of gunpowder to all that shit. And you've got regular Joes now that are, hey, my fucking combination is just, it's fire. And okay, so let's start putting this out. So there are so many new options available to hunters now. So why wouldn't you take advantage of all these options? And if you can go one-stop shop and you can get 8 brands of 3.
Well, I think the good thing you had brought up too was having that plan B, because I know I did a bunch of patterning the one time, and it's like I had, this shell was the best pattern by far. And then, this shell was just, a close second anyways. But I was out on a hunt, and so I was using the shell that patterned the best, and it's like nothing's like, we weren't dropping anything. So I switched it up, but it's like you could see that the birds were getting hit, but they weren't dropping. So I went to the shell that patterned second best, and then they were dropping, right? So it's like,
really?
So it's like, even though this one pattern might be a little bit better, it's good to have that plan B, because one might be hitting harder or differently or something, right?
Yeah. Well, Craig, you bring up a good point, because I've talked to people, they're like, well, just because it patterns good, it doesn't mean it's going to hunt good. I'm like, no, you're right, but that's a good place to start. That doesn't, unless you've got a ton of, ballistic gel that you're able to just go spend a ton of money and start shooting and figuring that out. You don't truly know until you start actually shooting birds. Until you're actually getting those real life statistics. So it's, but you have to start somewhere. Like, it's only going to help you to have a good pattern.
Yeah.
And it's honestly the least amount of money that you're going to spend doing that, with everything else. I mean, if you hunt farther than 20 minutes away, like, you really start spending some gas, and then you hunt the boat. Now you're spending gas for that, and it's like, all right, this is only going to cost you what it's going to cost you in a day or two hunting, depending on how far you got to go. And it's, so I'm like, just go do it.
Ryan, what's the And I know you, and I know I'm going to get an honest answer here when I ask you this. So normally I wouldn't ask this, but what's the consensus from from across the board on people that have been purchasing up to this point? Like, what's the consensus? Like, what's the feedback that you're getting?
I mean, I almost hate to give you the answer, but it really is like it'll just be kind of random. Like,
Yeah.
I know like a lot of people like Boss. I had a one Boss shell that for me didn't shoot great. I had another Boss shell for me that shot great. That shot phenomenal. But and then we've had a couple of people say we've got several different Browning loads in there, and she had reached back out and said, "Hey, this Browning shell had pattern best," and then it goes to Migra. I mean, like I've shot the Winchester Super X, and honestly, like that shoots just fine. Like that stuff is pretty cheap, but it's like at 30 yards, I have no issues with it. So I actually we went to Arkansas with our buddies from the Off the X podcast.
Yeah.
And we went back down there in January, and I had we'd done Christian was here, so we'd done a bunch of patterning, and I was like, no issues. Like I was like, I'll take that all day. And like a lot of people have kind of given that a hard time, but I have no issues there. So it's honestly, I mean, it's hard. Like there isn't any one consensus. Like I see a lot of like I'm all over a bunch of different Facebook groups, and I saw one today where it was like, "Hey, Boss is great," and then the next person was like, Boss out of my gun sucks," and then I shoot Kent Blue Box, and then it's like, "Hey, I shot the Winchester." So it's like there really truly isn't one answer that I can give you, and I think that proves our point is. There's so many different shells, so many different guns, so many different chokes.
Yeah. So really what I was and I guess I didn't ask it properly, Ryan, was like what's the consensus on your customers, your consumers when they write back after they've, opened up the box and then they've ran through the concoction of fucking shells that's in that box. Like, so I guess what I'm at, are people happy with Pattern Pros? Like when they get it, they bring it home and they take it out and they sit in their backyard and they fucking, they bust up some paper. What are they writing back and saying, "Hey man, fuck, you saved me $200 by doing this"? Are you getting any messages like that? I guess that's sort of kind of what I'm getting at.
Not on like we don't get as many. I don't get as many messages back as I think I would like.
I guess,
but
I guess
people
it's
that
like
have,
I guess it's like everything else.
Is phenomenal.
Yeah, I guess it's like everything else, Ryan. If what you're doing is good, no one will ever reach out to you. If it's shit, that's when people reach out, right? Because they're complaining. But people will always throw shade, but they'll never throw compliments, right? So I'm guessing that's probably the case with you.
I'm gonna try and sorry, we're making a mid-game move here and trying to get closer to the Wi-Fi.
Oh, it's calling an audible, everybody.
Can you guys hear me better now?
Yeah, you were good, buddy.
All right, dude. We've had storms roll through the last couple nights.
I know.
We're still kind of the tail end of one.
There was a nasty one that went through New York and Massachusetts because the Jays game got rained out. The Jays game got rained out. The Mets game got rained out. There was a bunch of ball games canceled night before last because of a nasty system that rolled through
it
the
seems
Eastern
like it kind
Seaboard. Yeah.
But to go back to your thing, like, yeah, I wish more people would reach back out to us, but the people who have reached back out has been like this is odd. Like, they're kind of blown away. Like, I literally had one just a few days ago who made a post about it. He goes, "I'm blown away." Like this, like that. I get so many brands at one time, and it was actually a fairly long post. Or like he like really put some real thought into it. So that was pretty cool. But I'm hoping more and more people do that. Because I and one, it's good for us, just to have that presence on either on social media or just the feedback. And two, I'm always curious as to what shoots best. And it's something like I told all the ammo companies, I was like, I don't care what people shoot. I was like, we're not going to push one brand more than any other. All we want is for hunters to go to the field with the absolute best tool they have available.
Yeah.
And so they're like, you're like, all right, cool, we love that. So it is cool to see what does come back. And there's been like a couple surprises where it's like the cheapest shell in the box shot best. So it's like you go back to saving money, and it's like, hey, I've been spending $30 a box when the $22 a box that actually shot best. So immediately, if you go buy a case, you're saving yourself $80.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff has been pretty cool to see come back to us.
And Craig, I know you want to jump in here, but I would think if I was a marketing manager for an ammo company, and listen, I am a firm believer that when you work for a company, you got to drink the Kool-Aid, right? So you're all in. Like, this is the best fucking company in the world. That's the way I operate. This is the best company. We make the best fucking product. I drink that Kool-Aid and I believe it. So if I'm a marketing guy for an ammo company, I'm jumping at the chance to put my ammo up against somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you want your fucking ammo to be competing with all of the other big names? I'd be fucking jumping at that personally. It just seems like an easy answer. If I'm, hey, yeah, fuck, we'll flip you a deal. You keep putting our stuff in because we believe in our product and we think it's going to outshine everybody else.
Yeah, that's honestly like what we told these companies. I was like, it's free marketing for you guys.
Yeah, because you said you're not pushing a brand. You don't give a fuck what anybody shoots.
And it's a free sale, right? It's like, I'm just looking at your list of the brands in there. It's like, I myself, maybe I never go buy a box of Browning, but, it's like they would never see, any of these companies may never see any of my money, but now they've got a sale through you guys that, and that, how many customers do you have that they may never see their money if it wasn't through the sales of you guys, right? And then that, yeah, all of a sudden, like just Browning, for example, and I have no problem with Browning, but it's just the first one I saw. But yeah, if it was a shell that I would never buy, and then all of a sudden, they've got the sale through you, and then I find that one works. Well, now they've got money that they would have never had in the first place, right?
Absolutely. That you hit the nail on the head there, Craig. Like, this is an opportunity for, and even the obscure. And listen, I'm not picking on anybody, but you look at Boss. Like, Boss is not in the hands of everybody. And if you're able to get 3 shells of Boss, 3 shells of Migra, 3 shells of Apex, which is, and listen, I'm not throwing shade at these, but these guys are the small guys when you compare them to Federal, Winchester, those big brands that are out there that have been around since Christ has been hunting ducks. Do you know what I mean? So now the small guys get to be in the same playing field as the big guys. I don't know, man. That's easy for me. If I'm a marketing guy, but obviously I'm not a marketing guy.
It's been cool to talk to those we have, like I said, we have working relationships with all those companies,
of course,
including the big guys. But I told those 3 companies that you just mentioned, I was like, honestly, it's really cool to see the smaller companies start to make waves, because so they're producing a quality shell. It also kind of gets the big guys to take a step back and kind of look at it and go, all right, well, we may need to kind of rethink some stuff. So it may in turn force them to create an even better product.
Yeah.
So it's been honestly kind of cool to see. And I think some of the bismuth stuff is starting to become more and more popular. And so you're like, which is, there's no doubt, like bismuth is a more effective killing tool than steel.
Absolutely.
So seeing all these companies come out with it, right? All right, like they're making waves to the point where the big boys are taking notice and be like, all right, hey, we're gonna step up our game too.
We've got to start. So like the first sign for me, if I'm a somewhat new waterfowler, and somebody that's somewhat new to this whole fucking passion, the fact that you guys, pattern pros, have identified that you need to do a premium pack, that tells me that there is a huge market out there for that bismuth. Because listen, I'm not a bismuth shooter, but that's only because I'm too cheap to spend the money to buy bismuth. Right? And that's all it is. But like our good friend Pat Hendricks from Canadian Waterfowl Supplies, like Pat shoots bismuth. Now, and it's not a flex on Pat's part because he's shooting bismuth. He's not doing it because he wants to be known as the guy that shoots bismuth. It's just Pat only gets out so many days out of a year, because he's running Canada's biggest fucking waterfowl store. So when he gets out, he wants the birds, he wants them hitting with a hammer. So therefore he's going to spend the extra money and buy the bismuth just so that he knows when he hits a bird, it's falling. So there is, listen, nobody is telling you you need to shoot bismuth. Nobody's telling you need to shoot TSS or any of that shit. Shoot whatever the fuck you want. Nobody here is going to throw shade on you on what you shoot, but there's a ton of options for you is what we're saying. And what better way to explore all your options than to go through the pattern pros?
Yeah, so Brody last year actually, or this past season, switched to shooting bismuth, and he keeps all his stats. He keeps all of his own stats.
You know what, Brody, like I would think if I looked at Brody, that's what I would think. He's that fucking. You know what? Tell Brody if he doesn't listen to this. Brody to me is a fucking spreadsheet guy, isn't he?
Yes.
Yes.
He is a perfectionist.
The Marine Corps is fucking proud.
Yes. No, he is an absolute perfectionist when it comes to that. But yeah, he switched to bismuth last year and shot. I can't tell you his like actual stats, but it was like, I want to say 15 or 20% better.
Really?
So he killed more birds and actually shot less. So
makes sense.
It's so like for certain guys like that, like I mean, that's the proof in the pudding right there is, it's more upfront cost, but you're one shot drop. So
it all comes out in the wash, right? Like
and
you spend the extra money on the shells, but you're not shooting as much.
So immediately he's saving money. Sorry, I'm calling another quick little audible. I had the wife bring me a chair because I was sitting up there like an idiot. But
what the fuck would we do without our women?
Have less gray hair, or I mean, I love you, wife.
I'm gonna show you a fucking picture here right now. I put it on my Facebook.
Oh no, I saw it.
Did you?
Saw it the other. Yeah,
dude. So I'm gonna tell you, buddy. That picture of me with my daughter, that was taken 1 week before I deployed to Kandahar. That'll show you what the fucking years of after Kandahar did to me, because I did not age well whatsoever.
Are you sure it wasn't the women and kids? Like
no, 100%. It wasn't the women and kids. It was all the bullshit. But Craig, did you see that picture?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna blame a lot of that on combat, but either way, I digress.
So one of the other things that I also thought about too is shooting less while you're actually out is not only going to help you, but it's going to help your buddies and everybody else around you, because one shot doesn't necessarily screw, like, it's not messing with the birds that much, but it's when guys are like, I mean, you got 3 or 4 guys that are running it to the freaking plug.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like that one shot isn't a big deal, but it's the guys who are just bam, 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 bam. And you're like, dear God, like, you got, like, please stop shooting.
Well, and then you're chasing cripples while there's more birds coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, listen, what about this thread to fucking go down? So we live in a society right now where instead of trying things, we throw questions out on social media, right?
Yeah.
So how many times have you heard someone go, what's the best ammo to use for X brand shotgun with X brand choke tube, right? How many times have you heard that? So a lot, right? So I had this question. So I was dog training today with my buddy, and he says to me, this is what he says to me. He was like, Damien, he said, my nephew was looking for a pump action shotgun. He said, what would you recommend? And I was like, well, I'm going to tell you my train of thought on it. I said, you're looking at a pump action shotgun. So why would you spend premium dollars on a pump action shotgun with like next to no fucking moving parts, as opposed to spending premium dollars on a semi-automatic, either be it an inertia or a gas operated gun? I said, it's a fucking pump action gun. There's no moving parts. So buy whatever you want. But then I sort of sucked back and I was like, wait a second. I was like, he's got to go field a gun. So, and I'll get, and you got to field a gun and it's got to work for you. So if Mark Vitch was here and Ryan Bro was here, they will tell you I had a premium pump action shotgun a few years ago. And I am not joking. I could not hit anything. There was I was not killing anything. And Ryan, you've heard it so many times, being on a range and you're doing your qualification scores, and someone will be like, my fucking scope is off, or my gun is fucked up, or whatever, right? And the staff to be like, yeah, it's the gun, it's the scope, it's the fucking gun. No, it's the operator. Well, in my case, I switched from that premium pump action shotgun, and I went and I bought a semi that I shouldered, that I liked, and I liked the feel of it, to where I was doubling up, not tripling up a lot, but I tripled a couple times. So, there's, I guess this is a long-winded way of going about. So listen, you can pattern your gun. So now you're going, so here's, fuck, how can I say this? So now you've got a group of people that's wondering, well, what's the best shotgun to use? So you had that question on social. What do you recommend for a shotgun? And then you have the question, what's the best choke tube to work in X shotgun? And now I don't think I've ever seen anybody say, what's the best ammo out there? Have you ever heard anybody say, like, throw that question, what's the best ammo out there? So, I hear, what's the best shotgun? What's the best choke tube?
I think I've seen people ask, like, what's the best shell to use and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I see it a lot, but I'm also looking for it too.
Right. Of course.
So I joined so many of those Facebook groups. Like that question is that's my trigger. I'm like,
oh yeah,
boom,
of course.
Potential customer right there. Say, hey, what's the best shell choke, or gun shell choke combination? And I'm like, boom, here you go. Go check this out. And a lot of people, I've gotten a lot of customers like that, because they go to it and they're like, holy crap, like I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty funny to see, just to see how many times I get that. And it's during a certain time of the year, typically. So I'm starting to see those questions arise now as we're starting to, as we're, I think what somebody said the other day, like, 89 days until teal season. So duck season is
just around the corner.
Is coming.
Yeah, it's almost July 1st, and it's going to come fast.
Yeah. So I honestly do see a lot of those, and I see a ton of them during turkey season. So since the last time we were on the show, we came out with our turkey box. And that was back in February. That was like a few days before we went to NWTF. And I don't know if you know this about turkey hunters, they freaking love to pattern their shotguns.
Yeah,
they do it a lot. And so that was an absolute hit. Like we sold out numerous times. And it would sell out quick. And so now we're starting to see that transition of more people in the waterfowl world. And I don't know if it has anything to necessarily do with us. I'd like to think we have something to do with it. Is that it's starting to become more prevalent. There's still it feels like we're still 50-50 where people are like, yeah, you should pattern your guns. And then the other half is, just get them in the decoys or whatever the hell they say. And I'm like, I'm getting right on that, dude. Like, I'm trying here. But so, God, Christian is always he always takes the brunt.
He's the devil's advocate.
He's just getting the short end of the stick, which is funny for us. And so he had bought this brand new Winchester SX 420 gauge. He had bought it, I think, right around Christmas time.
Okay.
He was here the first week or so of January, and we went to Arkansas next week. So we took out, I had a 12 gauge pack and he had a 20 gauge pack, and we're going to go out. We went to my hunting club just down the road, and we're going to shoot. And he went through, I don't remember the first shell. And he shot, he wanted to just shoot at 25 yards. I'm like, all right, whatever. It's all about your preference. And we walk up to the target and go, holy shit, that was awful. And we back up and he throws another shell in there. Holy shit, that is awful. And it was 5 or 6 different shells, and they were all equally bad. So bad that there was no actual consistent pattern. There was you would never hunt with it. You would never want to do anything with it. The only way you were killing anything is if you were less than 15 yards. I mean, it was atrocious. Geese would have been flying through those holes. It was that bad. And I was like, dude, this for somebody, I guarantee they bought this gun and it was just a factory modified. I was like, somebody bought this gun or got this gun for Christmas and took it out the next day, I bet.
Yeah.
And couldn't have killed anything if they freaking wanted to. Like it wouldn't matter if they were like the only way they were killing something is if it just so happened to be in the wrong place. It was so bad that it was like, I was like, these are the results that prove our point, where it's like, yeah, all right, hey, that's a good pattern. Like, that's what I expected because it's a good show with a good choke. And it was like, this is a reputable gun. They were all reputable shell companies, and it was just atrocious. And it was like, dude, you can't hunt with that. Like, not a prayer. And so it was just so bad that it was like, dude, like, this right there just kind of proves, again, what we're doing is you better go put that gun and shell on paper to actually just have an idea what you're doing. But I looked at him; he always has some kind of issue, and I was like, "Dude, you're not taking that thing hunting." So we had to go get him another choke, and he ended up shooting it, and everything was good to go after that. But it was he was like, "Dude, you got to be kidding me," because it was just, oh my God, it was so bad.
Well, it's funny, like you said too, because like turkey guys, and I know I do the same with my turkey gun. So you pattern it like crazy for an object that's going to be more or less standing still, usually under 20 yards, at least in my hunting situations. And yeah, you'll be out there patterning like crazy. But yet, when you're shooting at moving targets and smaller targets, it's like, no, it's fine. Yeah, I shot it last year. I'm good to go, right? Like, and you don't put that effort in.
And I think some of it is because people are like, well, it's turkey hunting. I might only get one shot. That's like,
yeah, that's true.
I get it. But at the same time, if it's something that you're going to go do more on a consistent basis, you would think you would want to like be a little bit more, not a perfectionist, but you would want to try and, like hone that craft a little bit more. And so it's some of it is people are a little naive, I think. And they're like, yeah, it'll be fine. It shoots BBs and we'll be good to go. And, but over the last year, it really has been eye opening with the amount of different shells I've shot now. So it's been pretty cool. But like the turkey stuff was people were very receptive to it. And so for the turkey stuff, it's 5 different shells with just one of each in it. And so for that, we have 12, 20, and 410. Most of those loads being TSS, which is obviously is the go-to for a lot of people now. But so that was pretty cool to see how receptive that was. But then we had on the Waterfowl side, we had a good amount of feedback from people, or at least asking questions. And it was so last year we had 12 and 20 gauge, which that's still what we have now. And for 12 gauge, we had pack 1 and pack 2, each with shot size 2 and shot size 3. And then for 20 gauge, we just had 1 pack of number 2s. So in order to get ready for the Delta show, we expanded. So we have for 20 gauge, we added we have pack 1 and pack 2, each with 2s and 3s. And then for 12 and 20 gauge, we also added number 4s and that premium box. So I think we added seven new boxes for people to try out. So for the most part, we have, I would say, probably 90% of your shells that you would see on a shelf.
Mm-hmm. What are you bringing to Delta? So I guess, and I'm not trying to sidetrack you or anything, but for the Delta Duck Expo, Ryan, what will you bring to Baton Rouge that consumers can walk out the door with?
Everything on our shelves.
Oh shit!
Okay. All of our packs for waterfowl. We have some leftover stock for turkey, so if somebody wants to go ahead and grab that. Yeah. We got new shirts in, new hats. These are These are them. And then, so we actually, Brody designed a new logo, which we have on our shirts. And then, because we have our own custom box as well. And he did it retro, so it looks really cool.
Okay.
And then our targets. So I'll have I don't know how many sets of targets. I'm actually I spent a couple hours today packing those and folding those and kind of getting those ready to go. So
that's something I wanted to, and I don't want to cut you off, but
nope.
So anybody that's coming to the Delta Expo, with regards to Pattern Pros, you can come in. Everything that they have is going to be available. So there's nothing that if you look at their website, at their socials, all that stuff, it's all going to be there. But you touched on something, and you did at the beginning of the episode, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up. The amount of work that it takes. So there's 3 of you guys. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 of you, and listen, you have your wives that are supporting you guys, and you have fucking families and the whole bit. But the amount of work that it takes, and we're getting really short on time here, but the amount of work that it takes to make something like this succeed, and I think one of the biggest things, and this is what I hear a lot, is that, well, how do you make it? You just can't, you can't expect it overnight. Like the only way that it's going to happen is true hard work. And I think you guys are a very, very prime example of knocking on doors, attending the big trade shows, setting up 10 to 15 minutes. And listen, if you think 10 to 15 minutes is a long time to talk to somebody, it is not when you're trying to sell them on an idea. So good for you, buddy. Like, I really am. I'm proud to say that we were one of the first shows that you guys came on. We were one of the first that was really pushing you guys. And I am proud of it. And I'm very, 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 very proud to know that you're a veteran-owned business, which I could get behind. So I love it. And again, buddy, I'm not trying to cut you off, but we are very short on time. So listen, everybody, we are going to be at the Duck Expo in Baton Rouge. Ryan and his team is going to be at the Duck Expo in Baton Rouge. If there's anything, if there is a question that's come from this fucking podcast, come to Baton Rouge and ask the man himself. Pick his brain. Ask him. If you haven't figured out yet that these guys are humble and they're going to give you a straight ass answer, then you're missing the point. So, let's do a quick around the table and let's end this before Corey Baker starts yelling at me. And I have no idea if Corey Baker even listens to the show, so, which is funny. Craig, to you, buddy.
It was great chatting with you and meeting you. I wish I would be able to see you down at Baton Rouge, but we looked into it. I'm not going to be able to make it down like I was hoping. No, I won't be able to do it. But
okay.
Yeah, have a great time down there. Good luck with everything. And yeah, I can't imagine how much work has to go into just having the amount of product you need for a show that size. And no, I hope it works out really well for you guys.
Well, thanks, Greg. I appreciate it. Yeah, it has been a lot of work. And actually, all 3 of us are actually in school as well right now.
Oh, shit.
So, yeah, Brody and Christian have been taking college classes. They both
but Christian don't fucking do nothing.
Christian's he's the safety guy.
He's the safety guy. He's the fucking safety guy. All he does is drive around in his truck, and nobody wants to see him show up on the job site.
I told him, I was like, "You're an officer now." I was like, "You don't do shit."
Exactly.
I was like, "You just sit in the damn air conditioning and yell at people occasionally." Which some of the stories he's told us is like, Jesus. And then it's good stuff. And then I started EMT class about 3 months ago. So
good for you, buddy.
It's been a lot of work, but a lot of fun. And if anybody comes down to Baton Rouge, 388 is our booth number, and then Facebook, Pattern Pros USA, Instagram, just Pattern Pros, and then the website is patternprosusa.com. If you have any questions prior to that or whenever, my phone number is actually at the very bottom of the page. Something that has
my wife
turned out to be no, it's turned out to be great. But Christian and Brody didn't tell me that they were doing that, so I would start to get random calls. I'm like, how the hell did you get my number? Like, I'm happy to talk to you. Because I'm happy to talk to you guys. Like, let's do it. I'm glad to help you out. But I'm like, how the hell did all these people start getting my number?
That's awesome. Yeah, well, if you can't rely on your fucking buddies, who's right? Listen, I'm going to tell you, if you are going to go to the Baton Rouge Delta Duck Expo in July, and if you come up to either, I'm going to be in the Real Geese booth. If you come up to me or come up to Ryan and say, hey, listen, I heard about you on the Punisher Waterfowl podcast. The first drink of whiskey is on me. And all you got to do is come up and say, hey, listen, I listened to your episode. I think it was awesome. Well, you can say that it was shit too. I don't care. But if you say that you listened to us on the podcast, the first drink of whiskey is on me. And we'll get together after the show one evening down in Baton Rouge and have a time. Ryan, buddy, thank you so much. I am so sorry I know you were, hey, are we still good for Friday? I've been just so busy, man. I appreciate your patience and I appreciate you reaching out and saying, hey, Damien, I think we need to come on the show and talk about what we're doing. I appreciate all that, buddy, and I thank you for messaging me and I appreciate your patience with me. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Union 0430 podcast. We are not experts. We'll never pretend to be experts. We're just a bunch of dudes that love one another's company and talking anything bird hunting. Big love. Until next time, surround yourself with good people.